We're going rogue without the AirPods this time. Let's see how the audio is. Y'all like my hair? I've been doing it up a lot. It's been making me feel very demure, very fancy. So I want to talk about the gene key we were just transiting through. I had promised I would do it, and I am going to do it. But just know that as you're listening to this, we are no longer transiting through this key if you are someone who listens to these in, what am I trying to say? If you are someone who keeps up with these and listens to them as they get published. We have since moved into, we are on day 2 of a new key. As you guys probably remember, we change gene keys every 5-ish days, 6 days. And these are the transits I'm speaking about. So we are obviously making our way through the Libra keys, the Libra energy. So if you know someone, born around these times, so like the first week of October, they will have the gene key 48 as their life's work. Which is the key that I really want to talk about. And the key we are in now, let me give you some dates to make this tangible. 1 second here. I highly recommend Triple Flame, the app, and that is the Gene Keys app. They have a calendar and they tell you what the key is, and there's a little audio by Richard. Richard Rudd is the founder of the Gene Keys. And he will go over the key and give you a little 15-minute excerpt that is completely different than the content you'll find in the Gene Key book. And it's the way that I keep up with the transits. Also, my software that I use when I'm doing sessions runs transit reports, which is really helpful. So since October 7th to the 13th, we will be in Gene Key 57. And I certainly will be doing a kind of my own pulse, my own Phoenix pulse on that, because it is a very interesting key. And once again, it is a key that I don't have activated in my own chart. However, I have the programming partner. So this week is bringing up some shit for me. Pin on that. We'll talk about the 57 soon. So I believe it was like the 1st or 2nd to October 7th. We were in the Gene Key 48. Now, I love the 48. The 48 is the sphere I have in my culture sphere. That's a part of my Pearl sequence. Again, if you haven't run your chart yet, what are you waiting for? Go to genekeys.com. They have a really cool new profiler they're beta testing that has a really beautiful interactive interface and gives you little snippets when you click on your spheres. So you can kind of start your contemplation. You don't need to wait for a reading. You can get going on this. And then I also really hope that this gene key library that I'm formulating as we do videos through the transits will be supportive and nourishing to you as well if you have these keys or are drawn to them. So let's see, any other logistics I need to speak about? Let's flow. Let's just get into it. The 48. So 48th gene key comes off of the spleen in human design, if you're a human design nerdy. So it is a very intuitive gate. There are also fears here. So that's a really interesting thing to contemplate too when we're moving through transits, to look and see like, okay, well, what is what is the center that's being activated? Do I have that center? Is this something I usually work with, or is this, sort of foreign energy? And it'll help you with your contemplation, deepen it. So the 48, as I mentioned, is the spleen. Awareness of potential solutions, awareness of possibilities. It's very intuitive depth, natural wisdom about the unknown. It's known as the collective well. Okay, I was looking here to see if it would give me, here it is. Of course, how could I forget? the fear of inadequacy. So when you look at the spleen gates and the spleen keys, you will find intuition and fear here. It's a survival center. It's linked to survival instincts, I should say. And so the 48 specifically connects to the 16, which is the throat. So it's that furthest left channel in your human design. And each gate and key coming off the spleen has a particular fear. Fear of the future, fear of the past, fear of death, fear of responsibility, fear of inadequacy is the 48. And so this has been a really interesting one to contemplate. I spent a lot of time with it as I moved through my most recent retreat with the Pearl Retreat, my own personal cultivation and contemplation. And it really showed me that my deepest desire is to serve the world through the tools and the things that I acquire, and in whatever way I can, honestly. And so it's interesting that my culture sphere, which in Gene Keys is your gift to the community, it's your very specific gift to the community, is the 48. And it is interesting that when I'm in my shadow state of the 48, which we're going to learn more about in a minute, is inadequacy. And then the fear of this is the fear of not being good enough, right? Like fear of not being prepared enough, being smart enough, pretty enough, whatever the thing might be. And so it's so interesting. The majority of the clients that I attract often, and now this has been through a lot of embodiment work, and I plan to do more, obviously. My greatest prayer for myself is that I'll continue growing and learning. But a lot of my clients reflect back to me how much they enjoy being around my confident energy and my acceptance of myself, and they feel more adequate when they're in my presence. And it's so beautiful to just see that the gift of the 48 is resourcefulness, and the Siddhi is wisdom. So from inadequacy, we go to resourcefulness, and then we go to wisdom. And so this key is such a juicy key, and it can equally be extremely debilitating. How many people don't start their business, or don't become the personal trainer, or don't drop their music, or write the poem or publish the poem because they feel like, who am I? Well, who am I to write poetry, or who am I to sing this song? Or there's other people who know more than me. There's other people who have more beautiful voice than me. That on and on and on. This inadequacy. And so a lot of times we will attract the people that we have gathered the medicine for through our own evolution. So we'll attract people that need that medicine. And so I've done a ton of work, and I do a ton of work on enoughness, being enoughness. If I can make up words, and being confident, being embodied. I have a saying when someone's like, well, who am I to do that? Or, there's other people more qualified or whatever. I always say, who the fuck are you not to do it? And I had to tell myself this. Who the fuck are you not to do this? You have a desire to give something to the world. And just the sole fact that you have that desire is enough of a reason to do it. That's enough of a reason. And of course, you want to be in your integrity. So as you're offering information, doing it from a place of honesty. I'm not saying go out and be a snake oil salesman. Lord knows we got them. I know some. I don't know them no more. Okay, I digress. Now let's get into this. Programming partner of the 48 is the 21st gene key. This makes up the ring of matter. This gene key connects to the lymphatic system, which is very interesting. This spleen also connects to the lymphatic system, also the immune system. So very, very interesting nuggets there. Okay, let's go into, gosh, I've contemplated this key so much. I had a flashback of like, I haven't recorded one on the 48, right? I may have. Fingers crossed I haven't. 77, y'all. I've got an archive. I'm ticking away at this little project. It's a lot of fun, very fucking challenging. I still have videos coming out without sound, which is why today we're playing without the AirPods to see if I can rely on this fancy dancy Mac. Okay, let's get into the shadow a little bit here. Let's go straight into the repressive and the reactive. Repressive nature is bland. Two types of people within the collective shadow frequency: those who duck their heads and give in to their fears, repressive, and those who project their fears externally onto others, reactive. The repressive nature of the 48th shadow forms the collective blandness of the mass consciousness. These are the sheep whose fears are buried beneath the surface by whatever the system tells them. The majority of people on our planet fall into this category. This consciousness is too afraid to look into the fear within its body, so it settles into the fixed patterns given to it by society. Of course, life arranges events in all people's lives that force them to face their fears. However, unless such events precipitate a major awakening, the repressive nature tends to bury its head even deeper in the sand once such periods pass. Now, reactive nature, unscrupulous. The other side of the 48th shadow is seen in those who feed the general sense of inadequacy in others. These are people whose rage does not allow them to admit that they are also afraid, and so they become victims of the system in a different way. These people use their knowledge to manipulate the fears of others while hiding behind the system. They keep their own fear at bay by externalizing it, and they increase the general level of fear by their unscrupulous actions. Such behavior greatly reinforces the shadow frequency. It is because of these people that humanity feels a great paranoia. We know that there are people in positions of power throughout the system who do not care about others at all, but we cannot always see and identify them. This gives us the feeling that all of society is impersonal and beyond our control. That's a very insidious, manipulative aspect of this shadow. Ultimately, we humans are a part of the mystery of the universe, and there are places where the mind is not destined to travel. Every human being must eventually turn inward and look into our deepest fear, the fear of the void. When we gather our courage and make that leap, we will discover something wonderful. The void is not empty and cold, but warm and loving and bursting with light and wonder. Our final insight that emerges from the 48th gift, sorry, I skipped a page, I'm sorry about that. I thought that was like going on with the shadow there. No, let's go to resourcefulness. Resourcefulness is the gift. Every human being is designed to prosper because life itself is prosperous. Prosperity is an entirely different phenomenon from wealth. To prosper, all a human being needs is a little more than enough. Whereas to be wealthy means to have a lot more than enough. Wealth, by this definition, is formed out of the need for security, which has already been shown to be an illusion and is rooted in the fear of the shadow frequency. Whatever your destiny, life will arrange for you to have a little more than you need. For some, that means very little, and for others, it means a very large amount because different humans live out different human myths. I love that. One can tell when a person is fulfilled in life because they find exactly the support they need when they need it, rather than stockpiling in order to try to create false security. Another vital aspect of the gift of resourcefulness is its integrative power. All of your inner talents and resources are ultimately designed with a built-in programming agenda to offer service to the world. In this sense, all true talent is holistic. I love this gene key. It says the light at the bottom of the well. For all its darkness and fear, the 48th gene key holds great hope for humanity, and this hope mostly lies in the hands of parents. We have already seen the 48th gene key governs our emotional developmental cycle in childhood. All human emotional issues are rooted in this phase, so it is extremely important that children between the ages of 7 and 14 are given a stable emotional environment in which to develop. because the emotional or astral body is a subtle layer of the human aura. It learns primarily through the astral bodies of its parents. If a child's parents have not raised the frequency of their DNA beyond the shadow consciousness, their dysfunctional emotional patterns imprint the astral body of the child. Almost all teenagers are wounded by their parents' subtle bodies well before they become teenagers. In psychology, we tend to think of conditioning as behavioral, and it is, but it takes place at a far subtler level than most psychology acknowledges. When you emerge at the age of 14 into your powerful teenage cycle, you either emerge whole, imbued with natural wisdom, emotional intelligence, and internal stability, or you emerge with a profound sense of inadequacy that characterizes your teenage years. So there's certain gene keys that are responsible for certain phases of our lives, and the 48 is that age 7 to 14, which is when our EQ is being developed. So when you run your gene keys, you'll see different spheres that make up the Venus sequence specifically within your hologenetic profile, and they're red, and there's an IQ, an EQ, an SQ, a core wound, and so you'll see the EQ would be ages 7 to 14. You can see what gene key you have there and what shadow gift and city you were evolving through. And the 48 obviously underlines that. It is, we're here to emerge from the 7 to 14 age cycle as with wisdom, as it says, with this feeling that we are competent. We have emotional intelligence and internal stability. And of course, probably many of you, myself included, wished we had more. What a wonderful world it will be and is as our children are being guided in a more subtler way, that is through healed parents raising children consciously. And so they will and are emerging whole and complete, not moving in the world as adults feeling inadequate, but rather knowing how adequate they are, not from an egotistical place, but from a resourceful place, from a full place. Yeah, so beautiful. So finally, the Siddhi, wisdom. The beyondness of being and not being. The Siddhi of Wisdom is one of the truly great cities. Wisdom has been revered and sought by all cultures since the beginning of time. That makes me want to cry for some reason. So beautiful. There are many definitions of wisdom, most of them based on the notion of some kind of inner knowledge that allows you to see beyond the confines of what is considered normal awareness. Collectively, the 64 gene keys represent an encyclopedia of the 64 archetypes or codes within the human continuum. At the Siddhic level, however, the differentiation continuum ceases to exist. Each siddhi uses its own paradoxical language to address that which lies beyond words. In this context, the 48th siddhi is the great archetype of the beyond itself. It is something all human beings aspire to, and at the same time, it is something that terrifies us. The 48th siddhi opens up the void inside you. In a human being, it is the primal state of not knowing. To be unsecure, on the other hand, is to not have embraced your urge to escape fear in every possible way. It is to realize that your body itself is not afraid to die. It is absolutely natural for your body to die. Neither is the mind really afraid to die, since the mind is just an aspect of the functioning of your body. What then is it inside us human beings that is afraid to die? The answer to this question is the source of true wisdom. It is the ultimate solution to all our human questions and problems. Only life can answer this question. No words can point to the grand illusion of our existence. When the body dies, its constituent elements will return to the great web of life and continue to be endlessly recycled through the universe. What then remains of you? The answer to all such questions is another single question. And no matter what the question, the return question is always the same. Which us? Which you? Which me? There is no me, you, or us. To be unsecure is to be more secure than is possibly imaginable. To be unsecure is to surrender all your inner questions back into the infinite. There is a wonderful story about the great Indian sage Badhibrahma arriving from the Chinese emperor with a shoe on his head. When the emperor asked him the meaning of the shoe, he replied that he wanted the emperor to know right away what kind of man he was dealing with. This story is symbolic of the unsecure nature of true wisdom. It will not and cannot be comprehended with the mind. I love that so much. I'm going to go ahead and share. I think that's good. Thank you. This is the Gene Key Bibles by Richard Rudd. Highly recommend you get this. Read about your keys, contemplate, keep it on the coffee table. I have like 3 copies now. One at the office, one here, and one, maybe 2. Got a bunch of his other books. Okay. Anyway, so I wanted to say the cool thing about the 48 is if you do have it or if you do resonate with it, oftentimes because it's considered the well, the resourcefulness and the wisdom is within you. It's in your DNA. It's in your coding. And so oftentimes the 48 becomes activated through the correct stimulus, through the correct problem, through the correct invitation, the opportunity, the person in front of you, the client that shares the issue, the thing that needs to be fixed. That is when the resourcefulness will bubble up out of you, and you may find it truly is just a wisdom moving through you. I have seen myself nearly every session surrender to this. I'll have a client who's dealing with something I physically have not encountered, and yet something will arise in me that feels resourceful for them, that feels helpful, that feels insightful. And I know it's not me. I know it's a memory, it's a code, a past life, a future life, a relative who went through it, that I didn't even know. It's something gets unraveled when the correct stimulus comes. Something arises up out of the well and is gifted to the person and to yourself. Often I hear myself and I'm like, whoa, that's really insightful. That's very helpful. And it's beautiful. It kind of just bubbles up and out. And so when you contemplate this key, the wisdom truly is, of course, it can be cultivated. And I do often nurture and nourish my brain with things that are resourceful to myself and that do feel helpful. So it's not, there is that aspect of it too. But what I would consider true wisdom bubbling up from this gene key, it's things that seem to come from God, that seem to come from source, that are just brilliant. And often my prayer, and this is a prayer that I learned from Marianne Williamson, and there's many variations, and you'll probably hear a variation in your mind as I share my variation. But it is a prayer that is very helpful for those who feel inadequate, who feel nervous, who feel the inner critic say, who are you to do this? You're only this, that minimizes and diminishes you. And also for those who get very nervous before having to work with people or speak to people or present something or teach or guide. The prayer is, God, Use me. I'm your lamp. You be the light. I'm turning myself on. I'm clearing the space. Let your light shine. Or I'm the fountain. I'm the spigot, the faucet. Let your water flow through me. I surrender. I'm getting out of the way. I trust you. Flow through me. And so I always do some sort of variation of that. Marianne has said that many times in her teachings, Marianne Williamson. And it immediately calms my nerves, because when I'm nervous, that's because I'm relying on my own strength. I'm thinking that they're there for me, which they're not. And oh my God, the balloons! I haven't seen them in so long. I think it's like a number cue. Like when I do something with my hands. I had thought it was a cue of a certain word I say, but I don't know. This software cracks me the fuck up. I just hope the audio is picking up. That would be fucking amazing. So where was I? Okay, so essentially you just want to humble yourself before God's Spirit. Clear your vessel with your breath, clear your vessel with your grounding, wear the outfit you need to wear, sage yourself, prepare yourself. But ultimately, when you speak, when you hold space, when you teach, you are tapping into something greater than you and allowing it to flow through your beautiful voice, your beautiful expressions. Your meat suit is certainly influencing it, and your personality is coloring it, making it digestible and entertaining and exciting, or whatever it is. And it is, captivating, all of that. But it's the source, it's the wisdom that's flowing through that you have to recognize is not you. So this should be relieving. This should feel like, wow, so it's always there. It's always there. All I have to do is clear the way, turn my lamp on, wait for the electricity to flow. That's it. And so it's always there. It's reliable. We don't know what's going to come through, but we always know it will come through, especially if we do our part of the street. And then if it sucks and it doesn't resonate, it's okay. It's all good. Of course, there's skills and things you can work to cultivate to become a better speaker and teacher and guide, and that's wonderful. But also, they might need it to have been triggered. That might have been what Source wanted. You don't know. But if you're truly, purely turning it over to God, I find that oftentimes you just find the right words and you find the right tone and the examples flow. And of course, the most important part is you're not nervous anymore, because it's not about you. It's not about you. Like I said earlier, they're not there to see me. Not really. Not really. They're there to experience a taste of light, a sprinkle of wisdom, a moment of stillness, an experience of presence. They want to feel God. And that's, that old saying, I wish I knew who had said it, but every time you're meeting someone, you're meeting, God in a t-shirt, God in a hard hat, God with a dog. It's just, we are all God walking around, and you get to taste the divine through all these different meat suits and vehicles, and it's just it's a beautiful gift to be alive, to be able to do that. So 48, I have so much appreciation. My culture sphere is the 48.5, which I'm super happy with. I feel like that goes so nicely together. It's the only fifth line I have in my halogenite profile, and it's all about practicality, universalization, tools. It's the fixer energy, and it loves to reach far and wide. And so it's really cool having the 48 that is about resourcefulness on the fifth line, which is about resourcefulness. So feels like a really beautiful blessing of a key in my profile, and I'm very happy to continue to lean into my adequacy, my worthiness, and my resourcefulness, and get to kiss and taste wisdom often is one of my greatest joys in life. So Now do you see why I had to make sure I got this key in, even though we've technically moved into another key? I hope you enjoyed this. I love you all. I'll see you soon.